Today we're working with slope, midpoint, and distance. We're going to find the slope of a segment connecting 2 points. We're going to find the midpoint of a segment, and then we're going to find the distance between those 2 points. The first formula we're going to be looking at is the slope formula. The slope formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 with a line going through 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0, and vertical lines slope is undefined. So if you have a 0, 0 over any number always equals 0. So if the rise is 0, then it would be a horizontal line. If you are going up and down in a vertical line, then you're going to have a number divided by 0. Now, you can never divide by 0 because no number times 0 will ever equal anything except 0. So that is why we call this an undefined slope. So let's look at example 1. We're going to find the slope of the line segments through the points -8, 4, and 6, -2. Now, we're going to be using this slope formula. We're going to label our point x1, y1, x2, y2. And so we're going to take our y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Our y2 is a -2. Then we're going to minus our y1, which is 4. We're going to divide that by our x2, which is 6, and then we're going to minus a -8. Now make sure that you don't just put in one negative there. If we're minusing a negative, that's going to be the same as adding. So -2 minus 4 is going to be -6. And 6 minus a -8 is the same as 6 plus 8, which is 14. Now 6 over 14, they're both 6 and 14 are even numbers, so we can divide them by 2, and we get -3/7 would be the slope of number 1. Number 2, we're going to find the midpoint of 2 points. We have a formula x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So what's happening when we have the midpoint, we're finding the middle or the average of 2 points. When we find the average, we add up the numbers that we have and we divide by how many numbers there are. So if we have 2 points, we're going to divide by 2 to find the average. Okay, so let's use this formula to find the midpoint of -8, 4, and 6, -2. So we have our x1, y1, our x2, y2. We're going to add the x's, -8 plus 6, and divide that by 2, and that will give us our x, the midpoint x value. And then for the y's, we're going to add them up, 4 plus a -2, and divide that by 2. Now this is a point. So -8 plus 6 is a -2, and then we're dividing it by this 2 here, which gives us a -1. And then we have 4, -2. 4 minus 2 is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is a +1. So the midpoint of those 2 points would be -1, +1. Our next formula is distance. Distance formula comes from the Pythagorean theorem. What it does is, if you have 2 points, what happens is you can make like a right triangle out of these. And so if you do your a, and a squared plus b squared will equal our c squared. And then we're going to take the square root of that. It comes from that, but we can just use this formula here. But just keep in mind it comes from the Pythagorean theorem, where this is be our a squared, this is our b squared, and then we take the square root so that we can get the c length alone. We're finding the distance between 2 points. So we're going to take our x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're going to put it into the formula d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. If we substitute our values in, x2 would be 6 minus x1 is a negative 8. So minus a negative 8 squared plus y2 is negative 2 minus y1, which is 4 squared. And then you can put it into your calculator just like this, or I'm going to do this a little bit more by hand. 6 plus 8 is 14 squared. And negative 2 minus 4 is a negative 6 squared. So we have 14 times 14 would be 196. And negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive 36. Keep in mind whatever numbers you get here will always be positive because a negative times a negative is a positive. And 196 plus 36 is going to be 232. And the square root of 232 is going to be about 15.23 if you were going to round it to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so we are going to graph these points, negative 8, positive 4, and 6, negative 2. On number 1, we're looking at the slope of the line. That's the rise divided by the run. Let's put that on our slope formula. And so we're going to count how many it's going up and down and divide it by how far it's going over left to right. So at negative 8, 4, the rise is going to go down 4 and then down another 2. So this is going down 6. And then we're going to count how many over to the left and right. There's 8 here and 6 here, so that would be 14 altogether. So negative 6 divided by 14 is going to be a negative 3 over 2, or over 7, sorry, negative 3 over 7. So if I went down 3 and over 7, it's going to cross at this point here. Down 3 over 7 again, it's going to cross at my end point. And so that, yes, that is a reasonable answer. Our second one is going to be the midpoint. We want to find the middle of the x's and the middle of the y's to get the middle point of our graph. So I have 4 here and another 2. So right in the middle of the x's would be at 3. So we know it's going to be somewhere along this line here. And then the middle of the x's, we're going to have, it started at negative 8, and it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So negative 8 plus 6 is 14. Right in the middle of that would be 7. So if I go 7 this way, it's going to be right here. So this point right here would be the middle, negative 1, 1. You can also see it because it's right in the center. And so negative 1, 1 is what we got for the midpoint when we used the formula. For the distance is the hardest one, but we can use Pythagorean theorem. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side. And we have 8 plus another 6 is 14 on this side. So 6 squared plus 14 squared will equal c squared. 36 plus 196 equals c squared. This is 232. And that will equal our c squared. So if I take the square root of that, that will give me what I got up above. And so, yes, C is also going to be a good answer. Number 5, we have a triangle. We're going to find the slope of AB. we're going to find the midpoint of AB and then the length of AB. So slope, we have a few ways we can do it. We can do it from the graph, the rise divided by the run, or we can use the formula y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So I'm going to start with the rise over run. I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3. The rise would be 3. The run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my slope is going to be 3 over 5. Now if I use the points, A is negative 4, 2. My B is 1, 5. So we're going to do label our points as x1, y1, x2, y2. And so we're going to do y2 minus y1. y2 is 5 minus y1 is 2 divided by x2, which is 1, minus x1, which is a negative 4. 5 minus 2 is 3. 1 minus a negative 4 is the same as 1 plus 4, which is 5, and we get 3/5 either way. The formula for midpoint is x1 plus x2 divided by 2. We're going to average the x's. Then we're going to have y1 plus y2 divided by 2. We're going to average the y's. And you can always look back on your notes right here, and it will say that formula. So we're going to use these same points and same labeling that we used on the last section. We have our x1 plus x2. We're going to take negative 4 plus 1 and then divide that by 2. And then for the y's, we're going to add the y's together. 2 plus 5 divided by 2. This gives us negative 3 over 2. And 5 plus 2 is 7 over 2. This would be as a fraction. If I put that as a decimal, I'd have negative 1.5 and 3.5. And that looks very close to what we had here when we kind of eyeballed it. But we can know exactly where it is by using the formula. Okay, now to find the length of AB, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. And we're going to use the formula. We have these same 2 points. When we use our distance formula, we're going to plug those numbers in for the distance formula. We have x2 is 1 minus our x1, which is negative 4, squared, plus our y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is 2, squared. And we have 1 minus a negative 4 is the same as 1 plus 4, which is 5 squared. And 5 minus 2 is 3 squared. 5 squared is 25. 3 squared is 9, which gives us the square root of 34. Now, if I look at AB, what I can do, if I was using the Pythagorean theorem, I could just count it. This side is 3. This side is 5. We have our a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 3 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. 9 plus 25 equals c squared, which gives us 34. Take the square root, c equals the square root of 34. Now both of those can be approximated to be 5.83 if you were rounding to the nearest hundredth.